Greetings, brothers and sisters in Christ. We come to the sixth Sunday of Ordinary Time. The Gospel is Luke. We are on the Sermon on the Plain, where Luke gives us his version of the Beatitudes. And to prepare for that, the church gives us the first reading from the prophet Jeremiah. Jeremiah says, "Cursed is the one who trusts in human beings, who seeks his strength in flesh, whose heart turns away from the Lord. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose hope is in the Lord." So there's the key. Who do we trust? Do we trust God totally with our life? And so I like the gospel today begins, Jesus came down with the 12, stood on a stretch of level ground, and then he began to speak to them. Jesus does this all the time. He comes down to find us where we are. This is what happens at the incarnation in his birth. He comes down from heaven. And St. Thomas Aquinas says that grace builds on nature, and grace perfects our nature. That means that God finds us where we are, and then he builds on us. And he wants to perfect us in heaven one day. He wants us to have salvation, communion with him forever. So Jesus always stoops down low in order to find us and conquer us in love. So that's what he does today. The Beatitudes then, he tells us we are blessed if we hold on to certain things, and we are cursed if we hold on to the wrong things. And so the whole story is about attachments. And this is important in the spiritual life. Attachments are anything in this world, including life itself, that we can convince ourselves that we cannot live without. We become attached to some things that lead us away from God and from God's love. So the implication is that with Christ, we can live without anything of this world. If we know this in our bones, this is spirituality at its best. So if I trust God totally, I don't have to worry about anything in this life and this world because God will take care of it. St. Augustine says that we are wired for God naturally. You have made us for yourselves, and our hearts are restless until they rest in thee. St. Augustine also said we have errant desire. And this is where we become focused on something other than God, and we try to attain that. That leads us in error and errant, away from God and God's love. So a couple examples from the Beatitudes today. Jesus says, "Blessed are you who are poor." How can you be blessed if you're poor? And part of what he says is how lucky you are, how happy you are, if you are not attached or addicted to material things. So poverty, spiritual poverty, means that I don't need any of that stuff. I want God totally. So blessed are you if you are poor because you know you don't need all that other stuff. He also says, "Blessed are you who are now weeping." How can you be blessed if you are sad right now? The implication is how lucky, how happy, how joyful you are if you are not addicted to good feelings. And that's our culture for sure. So we can be attached to God, and then we can trust God when things are not so good. So when I feel like I'm weeping, I can still trust God is going to make everything okay in the end. So the spiritual life leads us to that place of freedom. To what are you attached? How can we be attached totally to God? God bless you this week.